You're listening to Faith in Action. I'm your host, Matthew Nowlin.
And I'm Shawn Graham.
We lead Conservative Christians of Tennessee, and we are thankful you're listening to this show. Conservative Christians of Tennessee exists to analyze political policy and politicians in Tennessee and offer a conservative Christian worldview. To support Conservative Christians of Tennessee in our educational efforts, our public policy analyses, and any other needed endeavors, you can give a one-time or a recurring gift at patreon.com/TN Christian. We want to glorify God by helping you to glorify God. So if you have any questions or any comments, need some feedback on something, want to let us know about something, you can reach me directly by emailing Matthew, Matthew, at tnchristian.com.
Or Shawn, SHAWN, at tnchristian.com.
And if you want to know what I really think and you want to help me overcome the left's shadow ban on me on X, you can follow me. I'm at MN Bookman. That's on X, at MN Bookman. Today's show is brought to you in the Memphis area by Herbi-Systems. Give Herbi-Systems a call at 901-290-7774 for all your lawn care needs. Since 1984, Herbi-Systems has been the premier lawn care and landscape company in the Mid-South. So give Herbi-Systems a call today at 901-290-7774 or visit Herbi-Systems.com. That's Herbi with a dash, systems.com, and let them kill your weeds. Our scripture for today is from the 11th chapter of Ecclesiastes, starting at verse 5, ending at verse 8. As you do not know what is the way of the wind, or how the bones grow in the womb of her who is with child, so you do not know the works of God who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not withhold your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, either this or that, or whether both alike will be good. Truly, the light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man lives many years and rejoices in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. Listeners, we love talking about generational wisdom. It's the best kind of compound interest out there. It's great to listen to men and women who want to share what God has taught them, and it's amazing to feel energy with younger men as they talk about where they think it is that God is taking them. And as you see them trying to learn from the older generations, it's fun. And we hope you enjoy hearing those stories as much as we do. And we've taken home, Christian families has to be a multi-generational effort. And the church and our families must work hard to restore that multi-generational effort if we want to continue building wise leaders and strong families. You can go back to our archives for the past few months at patreon.com/TN Christian. And we encourage you to listen to any of those guests many of you have missed, because all the guests did a great job walking us through these issues and pointing us to real wisdom and best practices for us as we go forward. And that same focus is a key point of our show today, looking forward. That's through great books. And we've shared several great resources with you recently. We encourage you to take the time to learn from what these wise authors are studying. And the kind of authors that we have, it's always going to start with the Bible. But we also want to encourage you to dialogue on these topics with wise people. Find people that understand these topics and engage in conversations to learn from them. You need to build steel men and straw men with them, and you need to try to break them and try to burn them. One of the greatest things about doing this show is how it lets us meet and have directed conversations that help Shawn and me learn not only what the root of a problem may be, but also what the biblical reaction is to those problems. We often say we're not the smartest men in the room, but we generally are trying to talk to them. And that's a skill you as a listener can easily pick up. We want to know what the kids are into these days. Talk to them. Are you worried about the direction of your denomination? Well, ask your elders, engage, get in the conversation. It's the best way for our churches to grow, for our families to thrive, and for God to be glorified in all we do. Today's format on the show is going to be a little different. Frankly, we had a great guest lined up for this week that I've been trying to get on for about 8 months. He's sick. We're working on rebooking him. But Shawn and I get to have these fun conversations with each other every once in a while. And we're going to do something we call 3 questions. It's going to be 3 topics from today's social media and cultural conversations. Well, and we will do our best to examine them from a biblical perspective. So, Shawn Graham, I'm Matthew Nowlin. Welcome to Faith in Action.
Well, it's great to meet you. I know somewhere there are people listening going, oh, no, they're going to do 3 questions on what topic? People are scared. But this is what
Yeah.
we do. You and I, we will articulate our opinions on things and run it through the lens of the Bible and try to figure out how we stand on things. So I think the best way to model this for our listeners is just to do it and go through, what's a question that you and I have? And right now, one of the questions we have is we see that sports it's just an issue. It's all in our culture. We have sports-minded leaders, and guys, they just lack discernment.
Are you telling me they don't know what play to run?
No. What I'm saying is they're addicted to it in the church, in our culture, in all areas. We see people right now where their life and their everything they do, their structure, their calendar, everything in their life lives and dies around the worship of sports. You and I understand this, but I mean, we have to ask this and flesh it out. Is it healthy to be focused on sports? And what should we be focused on if not sports?
The answer is really simple. It's yes and no. You should be focused on sports when it comes to your own personal fitness and health. Can you imagine if the average dude would get off the couch and go take a walk or go for a jog, go for a swim or whatnot with the time that he spent watching other dudes? You don't get healthy by watching other people do. Just like the conversation thing that we're talking about, you don't get healthy by listening only to other people's conversations. You have to engage. So what I do is 4 or 5 days a week, as I rant and you're sick of hearing, I'm at F3 with my 5-year-old. Soon my 3-year-old will join me probably when he's closer to 5. But we do that every day for 5 days a week for 45 minutes. And that's very intentional. What we don't do is that on Sunday. We don't do that traveling. And too many so-called Christians do that. They break God's plan for Sabbath, God's Sabbath law. And this has been going on for a long time. 15 years ago, when I was a member at First Evan, I remember Taylor Park, this is one thing he nailed that I was just like, go get him. Sports attendance, sports ball, travel ball, whatever. Travel ball is pretty much at this point just a really safe way to break the Sabbath. Is really all it is. And listeners, if you're involved in travel ball that keeps you consistently going on Sundays, you're sinning and you need to stop. You need to go to church. You need to model going to church for your kids. But it's to the point now where I think if you attend church 2 Sundays a month, you're considered a regular attender. And sports isn't the only phenomenon that's driving that, but man, it's huge. And we need to be in church most Sundays.
The question that I'm asking, in that same vein is, when did we begin to prioritize sports so much for children? What was the step that got us to this point where children's sports became the fixation of our lives, our calendar, our livelihood? Something's different. And I know in our conversations, as we batted this around, one of the things we noticed was that, we talk about the older generation modeling for the younger generation. And we talk about discipleship as a multi-generational thing. And Matthew, I can't see where guys who are spending all these hours, 8 hours watching a football game here and 16 different leagues that they're following. And I mean, half of these people that are watching all this football, they're gambling on it as well. And, they're truly addicted to this entire culture of sports ball. So why wouldn't their kids be involved in that as well? Why not? We're doing it. And then you hear that from the pulpits, the church leadership is like, oh yeah, this is great. Let's have Super Bowl Sunday night at our church. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. We're rewarding this rather than speaking out against it. That's what I think is happening is the men are not leading here in this moment. And so everybody else in the family just degrades.
Yeah, well, it's very judgmental of us, and I do pass judgment and condemn this phenomenon. It's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. It's
I think that who else is talking about it? This is why I think that we have to practice these conversations. If we're going to talk about this and flesh it out, how do we begin this conversation? How do we tell people to talk to their church elders and their leadership if they haven't really asked the question, hey, why are we supporting Super Bowl Sunday in our church? Oops.
Well, yeah, and we know it's dumb. We know it's dumb at a deep level because everybody, that movie from 20 years ago, Napoleon Dynamite, everybody really makes fun of Uncle Ricky because his life was centered around high school football sports. And, and it still is 20 years later in the movie. It's a joke. But the whole way that we do this is so counterproductive. The goal shouldn't be to watch. The goal should be to participate in this. And we make fun of participation trophies. Um, I'd rather you get a participation trophy than a trophy for watching other people do it, and a trophy for driving your kids around. I even saw a biblical counselor the other day just make the observation that travel sports are destroying marriages. I have some friends, they have a mother and a father who literally live in different houses because the commute for a specialized sport got so long. Now, what needs to happen, in my opinion, is most sports, even at high schools, we need to stop competing against other schools. Our schools are so big now, they're bigger than a lot of the leagues people competed in
Right.
60, 70 years ago. We need to focus on, intramural sports where we have more participation. If you're in a public school, I really think you should be required to be involved in something like that. And that's my contribution to the environmental effort to lower the impact of all those big buses running 3% of the student population at a high school 8 hours across the state for tournaments and championships and everything. Make local great again in that way.
There we go. So that's a good example. All right. So that's one question down.
Listeners, we're going to get back to our next conversation point in just a second. But first, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Navita IT Managed Solutions. Navita IT Managed Services is much more than a help desk. They're more than a network administrator. Navita has decades of business consulting and analytics experience, while many IT companies just react to whatever it is that just broke. Navita is proactively looking ahead to understand how money, relationships, and people flow through your business. Navita IT Managed Services works to keep your business growing as a healthy part of God's kingdom. Navita helps churches, they help businesses, and what they focus on is stewarding resources to become the best business leader possible. Visit their website, navitait.com, today to learn more about Navita IT Managed Solutions. And we're excited to have a veteran-owned Christian business like Navita on board. We interviewed them a couple weeks ago. It was great. And their support this year has been great. And we know you'll love using Navita for all your IT solutions. And now we're back. We're going to talk about immigration. It's a current event. Shawn, the Minneapolis riots over law enforcement efforts to remove people who are by their very nature criminally here, illegal aliens. That was a moment of clarity about many church leaders and where they stand on national governance, where they stand on biblical teachings on the subject of immigration. And frankly, it was really annoying. Some people would even say it was a nightmare to watch many of these pastors pretend they knew how to react. So what's a church member supposed to do if they find themselves in a church under a pastor or under leaders that take an event like that and just use it to scream against law enforcement and to support lawless riots, even if it's not directly apparent that that's what they're doing?
Well, I think the biggest problem you have here is if you haven't learned to carry on these conversations, like discuss, with biblical clarity, the issues with your pastor, your leader, your Sunday school teacher. If you've never engaged on that, and then suddenly this riot starts in Minneapolis and you come stomping down the hall at church and you're going to have this conversation right now. We're going to talk it out. That's not really the best way to do it, is it? You got to build these conversations because we're family in these churches. We're family in these denominations. We're supposed to be able to have these from reasoned principle positions. So what does your denomination say? Do you have a stance, denomination? Does your church have an immigration, like we have a policy or this is how we work with this? Most of these places are going to be very clear. We are about following the laws of the land. We're not going to break the laws. And when people are here illegally, that means they're breaking the law. It does not matter whether it was the crime of rape or theft or murder. It's still the fact that they've come here and they've broken our legal system for immigration. And so that conversation needs to be where we do. That's a biblical stance. Exodus very, very clear at the Decalogue how this is supposed to play out. How we have a standard here. That's our standard. We use the Word of God. And if you've had these conversations with your leaders, even if it's just somebody in your Sunday school class, and you've been comfortable enough to talk about this, these conversations will be a whole lot easier for you to carry on and say, hey, look, Pastor, did you know we were talking about this in Sunday school? Hey, did you know, Elder Joe, that, I think that, you've got some good wisdom on this. I saw you post something online on this. Tell me why you think that way, because I kind of think that goes against our teachings. And those are the ways you could do. If you come stomping down the hall ready to, burn down, that pastor, he's not going to talk like that. we're the ones who put these guys in place. We're the
Yeah.
ones who elected these elders and put our pastors in the pulpit. It's on us. So let's have the conversations and let's figure it out.
And if the first time you talk to your pastor is about something like immigration, first time you talk to an elder, a friend at church, you're going to find out very suddenly that they will immediately find a border that they believe in enforcing, and it's going to be the one between you and them. So it's
That's right.
you need to talk about all kinds of things and build a relationship with them so that they trust you, first of all, because you have to understand most of the time when someone has an opinion that is contrary to scripture, it's an indication really about where their heart is. They're getting value not from pleasing God, but from pleasing culture. So that means that there aren't a lot of influences in their life that are pointing them towards a correct position like this. If you've not been an influence in your life, that's going to be effectively othered to them, and you're real quickly, you're going to be the bad guy. You're not going to. So, start talking when it's easy, and then when it gets hard, it'll be less hard.
Well, you and I were talking about another subject. Somebody, said you were a kook on something, and we laughed about it, and then they found somebody else that proved that you were right and said, well, I guess you just proved that you're a kook on it. It's like, yeah, it doesn't change anything. You still have the weird stance on it. It doesn't matter in their mind
Yeah.
when you come to somebody. It doesn't matter what truth you're giving them. It's not what they're hearing all the time. So there's a little bit of pushback. That's natural. And that's okay, guys. You got to learn to speak into that. It's growth on both sides of that. And our pastors need to know that we're going to hold them accountable to the truth because it's ours, it's not theirs.
Yeah. Well, people don't care how much you know until they know that somebody with credentials also knows what you know. So
that's right.
Listeners, every week it's our privilege to remind you about equipping the persecuted. And we're so thankful for Judd Saul over at Equipping the Persecuted. But we've done shows going back 5 years regarding the genocide and murder of Christians in Nigeria. Through that time, there was one missions group there on the ground doing the Lord's work to save our fellow Christians. These are people we're going to be in heaven with, and that is equippingthepersecuted.org. That's equippingthepersecuted.org. Listener, your support's going to help real Christians that have been attacked by brutal Muslim jihadists. I realized actually your support's going to help survivors of these attacks, because a lot of these people are killed. 200 just in the last several days I saw from Judd Saul the other day ago. They need food, they need clothing, shelter, medical care. They need help building a new life. Your monthly donation is going to create sustainable support and help for people in real need. Please support their work, again, by visiting equippingthepersecuted.org today. Couple things you can do. The first is you can support an orphan. That's $35 a month. I don't want you to hear orphan. I want you to hear living child of a martyred Christian. You can order African coffee and have it shipped straight to your home. Every bag of Equipping the Persecuted coffee that you purchase will do more than fill up your cup. It will strengthen the body of Christ. 100% of those proceeds are going to go directly to support Christians in Nigeria. They actually have great coffee too. It's you're not buying coffee to suffer here. It's good coffee. They have a lot of great flavors. And again, that website is equippingthepersecuted.org. And the persecuted Christians in Nigeria, thank you. Shawn, I'm always surprised. We have on our Conservative Christians of Tennessee Facebook page, we get so many followers on that every week from Nigeria now. It's mind-boggling. So they know that we're involved in this and that our listeners, that this is important to them. So thank you, listeners.
I think it's so nice that we have these great sponsors that we are proud to be associated with. Isn't that fun? It's so great to be with good Christian brothers.
It is. It's fun to do reads that I actually believe in. I've been in sales before where I didn't really believe in the product, and it was not fun. Man, I hope all you guys go to equippingthepersecuted.org, and I hope if you have a business or a church, you go to navitaIT.com.
Mm-hmm.
Engage these guys. They both do good things, but education, super important to us. We talk about it all the time. Outcomes have dropped since the founding of the American Teachers Union and the Department of Education, Shawn, and we've seen moral decline.
Yeah.
We've seen decay of the family. Honestly, as schools in many ways have replaced what the family has done through the majority of history, we're in a period of historical variance today, but the family's taken a step down over that same time frame. What can Christians do to change this for the glory of God? What's God's plan here?
Well, I think that's very interesting that we've brought it back full circle. I think we spent 2 years talking about education in Tennessee. We have harped on this and we've tried to stand biblically. And I think in this moment, it's very interesting that you and I have been focused. And I think God's been pouring into us the concept of discipleship, multi generation, and just how important that is to changing our families. And right now, there is no other tool that's going to help break the cycle of moral decline in our nation other than Christian discipleship to our next generation of children. And parents have to own that responsibility right now and stop pretending that there is some mission field down the street that needs their kid in it to be indoctrinated by the state institution. I do not understand what's happened with that. And I think there's just no data that really supports sending your kid into that anymore. If you're truly worried about the discipleship of your family, then why are you letting the state do that job? It no longer makes sense at any level to do that. When we had Robert Borton's on talking about his new book, it's a phenomenal study, but not from a homeschool perspective. The reason the book is so good is because he admits 110% that the education system has been corrupted and failed Americans. It is not working. It has been taken over by Marxists. So why are we still participating in it as Christians in the church? Why aren't we jumping in to save these kids? There's a lot of stuff we can do. I know there's so many different ways to get involved, but I think we have to be honest to start with, Matthew. And the reality is the education system in America has failed.
Yeah. I want to look at another country that a lot of Americans can look back to and see their direct lineage from or have a lot of cultural affinity with, and that's Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
2.5% approximately of Scotland now is evangelical, despite the fact that this was, they sent out a disproportionate number of missionaries all over the world. My favorite theologian was really impacted his family as they fled the Armenian genocide, Muslim on Christian genocide, again, a repeating pattern. R.J. Rush's family came into the care of Presbyterian missionaries from Scotland around the time of the Armenian genocide, shortly thereafter. And we had in our Sunday school class at a missions conference, as part of a missions conference at our church this weekend, someone asked the question, when did Scotland go downhill? Like, what do you think is the biggest thing that led Scotland from being a leader in Christian thought, Christian missionaries, a truly Christian society where the hearts of the people were towards God, the God of the Bible? And the missionary stepped back and he realized he was about to insult some people's educational choices. And he tried to qualify it because he's there to raise money. He doesn't want to offend 3/4 of the people in the room. And he said, I think if you go back to 1872, when every Scottish child was in school, and it was in a Christian school that was run by the churches. And for whatever reason, he said, I don't know if it just got so big, but the churches looked to the state and they said, we don't want to do this anymore. We want you to take over the schools. And I wanted to just jump up and yell touchdown, game over. But it really is true. In America, I would say, we go back to the Warren decision. That one man issued so many bad decisions, and so many of his decisions the courts have been chipping away at since then. If you look at even to why we can't exile really bad people that are destroying it, it goes back to some of his interpretations on the 4th, 8th, and 14th Amendments, which are bad decisions. But the idea that our schools cannot proclaim the glory of God, that we can't have prayer in schools. And then not only have we gone from that point, Shawn, but we're to the point now where through so-called school choice, we're funding Islamic indoctrination centers.
That's unbelievable.
So, and somehow Christians are jumping up and down thinking that this is a victory, when I think God says your educational responsibility to your children is to be on point, do that yourself. But we'd rather fund jihad in America.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous that we're doing this because there's ways for us. We have grandparents that can support the education of their grandkids. Yeah. We can adopt other families within our community. Our churches can help to support this. We can create networks. There is no reason why we're not spinning this up other than, I think, what you pointed out, which is comfort, laziness. That's no excuse. It's really, really bad.
we're not going to homeschool our kids, but we are not going to be in church on Sunday because sports ball.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us for a slightly different show today as we walked with you through a few of the cultural issues that have been on our hearts. Listeners, we love you and we appreciate you stopping by each week to stay informed with the issues that we bring up as they relate to our church and our families. And remember that on tnchristian.com, we have links to past shows. We have articles about current events affecting Tennessee and the entire nation. And if you want to support our work, be sure to visit patreon.com/TNChristian. We have several levels you can support us at monthly. You can give a one-time gift. Until next week, please remember, this is the most positive thing that we say every week. The Lord shall reign forever and ever.